Good evening to you all out there in internet land. This is Raving Ray, and I'm in my room. And I recently had started collecting some old Star Trek material again, as you can see here. Here we have the ship identification books for the Klingon the Romulan, part of the FASA tabletop RPG games from the mid 80s. First edition, Star Trek Encyclopedia from 1994. The FASA Romulan tabletop game and companion book. This tells you the entire history of the Romulans, their, what the race does and characteristics and all that stuff. The first edition chronology, the original 1975 hardcover Starfleet manual, and Mr. Scott's Guide of the Enterprise from 1986. Now, I am a huge Star Trek fan. Now, also Star Wars, but I was more to Star Trek because, well, when I was a child in the 80s, they had reran the original series on TV, and they also were coming out with the Next Generation, and the movies with the original crew was still being made. So, and plus, Star Wars only had 3 films in the late 70s, early 80s. So, do the math. So, but I also bought this because I wanted to see how the timeline has changed over the years. The timeline for Star Trek really hadn't got solidified until, I would say, Enterprise in 2005. And I do not watch Discovery. Oh, no. And so pretty much, I wanted to see what had changed over the years. So, right here, what gives about how the timeline has changed over the years was Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise, which is not only a cool book to have to see the whole diagrams of the uniforms, the ship, and everything, but when you go here about the history of the refit, it gives a date. So as we zoom in here and we go, and you could see here about the Enterprise and everything, and it says it gives a date of 2190, as I'm going to I'm going to hover here so people could read real quick. And then it gives about what, when the first film took place, because this book came out in 1986, so Next Generation had not come out yet, so there wasn't really a solidified timeline, and most people were going off the FASA, which gave a whole different timeline and everything. So I'm trying to find the date here, the second date. So you got the 2190 date, and here it is, 2212, as you can see here, April 7th. So originally, Star Trek, the original series, was set in the late 22nd century, and then the films would have taken place in the early 23rd century. Then we go to the chronology, which in itself, I bought this because of the fact that this is probably when they were starting to change around the timeline, or solidify, I should say. So as we go to 2061, you can see here, it says here that Zefram Cochrane flew the Phoenix. And here's the Phoenix, how it looked like before First Contact, the film in 1996. And you can see here on the cover right here, that's the Phoenix. Pre-First Contact, 1996. So when they released First Contact in 1996, they gave the year as 2063. So, and the newer encyclopedia did explain the discrepancy how First Contact, or Zefram Cochrane, made his flight in 2063, and how quickly they could have built a starship like the SS Valiant that disappeared in 2065. But anyways, that goes to show you how things are and how things have changed. And so right now I'm The FASA's timelines, I'm not going to go through the book, but they do give a timeline and star dates. And I do remember seeing on an online site years ago, one of the Star Trek fan sites, they used to be around in the late 90s and early 2000s, that the FASA books put them in the early 22nd century. So, either way, it goes to show you how times have changed and everything. And so I like to call this the pre-Enterprise timeline, before Enterprise was made. And also, right here in the chronology, it gave the Romulan War as let's see, we're going to the we are going to so it gave the Romulan War starting in 2158 and ending in 2160, and then the Federation was founded the following year. I should say the Earth Romulan War. While the Enterprise and the new timeline would have given the Romulan War, or I should say the pre-Kelvin timeline, gave the Romulan War from 2157 or 2156 to 2160. So either way, so this is I have ordered more books in the FASA line, including the one about the Romulan and the Romulan history, like the ones here for the I'm not the Romulans, scratch that, sorry. The one for the Klingons. The one for Klingons, just like this Romulans book. And the old maps book from the late 70s. So, and before I forget, Enterprise gave first contact with the Klingon Empire 2151 chronology. This is what I like. Chronology gave the first contact with the Klingons. As I move back. Here we go. 2118, as you can see here. First contact with the Klingon Empire. So as you can see, that was later changed to 2151 when Enterprise came out. So I guess they needed first contact with a very familiar and well-known alien race. So I will reveal more as I build up my collection here. This just had become suddenly my goal for this year. And this is Raving Ray signing out.